I actually had COVID. For those who are listening, I just recovered like last week. So for the past, let's say 3 weeks, I haven't been to the gym, but obviously I have been able to just go out for a walk maybe and stuff like that, but maybe do some exercise at home, but it has not been the same as what I'm used to.
Well,
so
I'm way
really,
worse because it's been since like the Omicron wave started. So it's been like, 3 months or something.
Oh.
So, but like, good for you.
Oh, that's not so bad.
Not so bad.
Yeah, good for you.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. Well, we're both going to get back on the horse. This is happening. Got to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to. We owe it to ourselves.
Yeah.
And we owe it to the music that we have to work on.
Yeah.
So.
And in terms of like circadian rhythm, I had like one of my great aha moments on the podcast on the air was I was talking to Damian Taylor, who he's just like an inspiration. He just had his 7th Grammy nomination. And he's worked with like Bjork and lots of great artists. And
awesome.
And he was telling me that he had a big shift thinking about sleep. Rather than it being the end of the day, he thinks of it now as like the beginning of the next day, and you're just kind of like you're pulling the arrow back for the next day to be like a really good situation. And I was like, that's so cool. And then
that's huge.
And in Judaism, which is I'm a Jew, so our days actually start at night. So like the Sabbath starts at sundown and ends at sundown. So I was like, that's like a super interesting kind of like parallel, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I got to think more about nighttime being the beginning and not the end.
Yeah, and it's so true, right? Like, yeah, you are kind of like closing the end of the day and closing this day and going into the night, going into a new day. But if you don't have a good night's sleep, then the day after is going to be so much worse than, waking up after a really good night's sleep. So he's totally right about that. Yeah, that's a great analogy.
So it's about prioritizing the next day and not today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. I mean, this has been so great. Lots of takeaways. I already said that, but I'll say it again. Lots of takeaways for everybody listening. We'll move on to the final question, which I ask everybody on the show. And so, just looking back on your journey, was there something that you maybe did or didn't do that you'd want to, impart on your earlier self, knowing what you know now, to be like, yo, Neenah, keep at that. That's going to get you where you want to go. Or maybe it's the other way around. Neenah, stop doing that. It's holding you back. What would be that one piece of advice you tell your earlier self?
The main thing that comes up in my mind when you ask me this is like the concept of fear. And everybody lives with some sort of fear and just like this uncertainty, this insecurity, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't. And I think that just the fear of failure and fear of maybe making a fool of myself has actually held me back at a lot of points where I decided not to do something that I actually easily could have done. And so I guess maybe the piece of advice to my younger self would be like, don't be afraid, just try it. There's no consequence to actually trying this. It's not going to be the end of the world if something doesn't work out. In fact, failure is the best teacher. So you learn way more from making a mistake than from everything going well and right. So just try things out and don't be afraid to really push past your limits and just see what happens.
Yeah, I love that. It's so true, and I feel like maybe people that go into the field that we're doing are more, maybe more on the perfectionistic side of things. Want to make sure everything is right, and there's nothing like doing, and even if you're failing, at least you're on the path and you're starting and you're in the right direction. And what's the worst thing that could happen, right?
Right, like maybe you get a mix wrong. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing in the world. Like, I don't know. Like, what's the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah.
I mean, usually it's so much bigger in our brains, in our minds than in reality, right?
Yeah.
So just try it out and see what happens. And don't be afraid to push past your limits. And
real life doesn't work like school. Like, it's not like you're failing a test, right?
Yeah.
You're just like gaining more information. So you do better next time.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. It's gaining more information. And you get way more information from, like, I don't know, let's say you stub your toe to the foot of the bed. That's like, a lot of information. I should not put my foot there, right?
Yeah.
And that gave you just a lot of information in like 2 seconds of time rather than just always walking past your bed. So,
Yeah.
Maybe failure isn't such a bad thing.
You're talking to the guy who bumped. I played a gig last night and I bumped my head on a speaker that was like right next to where I was standing. It really hurt. And then I did it again. But then you could be sure it happened twice. But then it was like, okay, I was warning everybody else. It didn't happen again after that.
Yeah.
So
wow.
sometimes you literally got to just slam your head to learn something. But then you learn.
Yeah, twice.
Twice. My case. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally.
Wow.
Well, Neenah, this has been really, really fun. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. And everybody
This
should
was awesome.
listen to all these things that you're saying. And what's the best place to find you on the internet?
So my Instagram is at Neenah Mixed It. So Neenah Mixed It. And you'll find me there. And there's, links on there to Spotify playlists and other stuff. So
yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's the easiest way.
And that will be in the show notes below.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Secret Sonics. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. If you've been digging the show, it would be awesome if you could share this episode or your favorite episode with a friend or two, and or leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcatcher of choice. That's it for now. Have a great week. Take care and dig in. See you soon. Bye-bye.